Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Hello, Russ. How's it going?
Yeah, good. And yourself?
Good, thanks, mate.
Excellent, excellent. All right, we should make a start, guys. Thanks to everyone making the effort to join us. Not only can we not go outside because of Corona, but also it's absolutely bucketing down in Melbourne at the moment. I presume it's lovely where you are, James, at the moment, is it?
Nice and dry.
Is it?
Wonderful day today.
Yeah,
Very nice autumn
and
day.
then presumably it'll be even more beautiful tomorrow as well, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of interested folks calling tomorrow.
Yeah, well, hopefully, yeah, hopefully, everyone on here, 36 people participants. I'm hoping you're going to be either ringing me or James tomorrow, asking for conversions or kits. You're really excited. Make a mistake. This is a sales pitch, guys. Roll up, roll up. No, it's not. It's informational session.
Yeah, it's a bit
Infomercial.
of fun.
Infomercial. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess some introductions. Thank you again for everyone joining us. My name's Russ Shepherd. I'm from Evolution. We specialize in EV charging solutions, conversions, and servicing of electric vehicles. I'm also the director of EV Up. Who also service the infrastructure and commercial and corporate markets as well. As you probably know, we're distributed for the Zappi in Australia as well. So anyone online who's interested in having their car exclusively charged from the sun, then by all means give us a bell and we'll look after you. We're privileged here to have James Pauly from TractionEV based in Queensland, hence to talk about sun and rain straight up out of the conversation. But for those in the south, obviously we all know that we exchange good coffee in exchange for good weather, obviously. So, look, and James is obviously the director of TractionEV. Pretty much a bit of a rock star in the EV conversion community.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, very well respected. Really good quality work, and
Thanks,
you'll see why in a few slides time. Bit of housekeeping. First of all, everyone's muted because if we had 42 people all talking at the same time, it'd be a bloody nightmare. So let's not do that. There is a chat function. If you look if you look at the green and red kind of menu thingamajig, there's two options there. There's Q&A, and then there's a chat as well. So you can obviously chat amongst yourselves, and which is a nice thing to do. But also there's a Q&A thing as well, so you can obviously add your questions there. Well, what we'll do is I'll try and this is going to be kind of a podcast / live stream type session. So James and I will have a conversation as we go through, as James goes through his slides, obviously. And hello, Tesla Tom, how you going, mate? I'll ask those questions if it's fitting, and then any residual questions I'll ask at the end. So, and we'll go all the way through those. So anything that comes to mind, pop them in the Q&A, and we'll endeavor to ask them. The usual sort of things, such as how long, how much, how far, all of that kind of stuff. Look, I'm sure James is going to cover off in the first 3 nanoseconds. So there's probably no need to ask those. But, if you feel a need, go for that as well. The other thing is that the presentation is currently being recorded. I need to check that actually. Yes, it is. I don't make a liar out of myself. Yeah, it's recording on this computer, which is great. And we'll be posting that to our YouTube channel tomorrow morning. And I presume, James, you'll want a copy as well to put on your YouTube channel too.
Yeah, that'd be great.
For those that who are deciding not to do this or watch this, then obviously you can catch up after the fact, and just presume that everyone's going to answer the questions that you would like to be asked. Sorry. So without further ado, over to you, James. No pressure. Take it away. Where did it all start? So
yeah, great. Thanks, Russ.
That's all right.
Well, really, the first thing that got my mind into electric cars was the documentary "Who Killed the Electric Car," think that came out in 2007, 2008.
Yeah, I think it's about right.
Yeah, maybe 2006. And that just blew my mind. I had no idea that electric cars were ever a thing in recent history. That EV1 definitely flew under the radar, flew under my radar anyway. And
it was good as well, wasn't it? That's the thing that
yeah,
people don't realize. Just so early in the piece, it was actually a very, very good, competent car, and people who had them absolutely loved them, and they were doing decent range, and they were pretty quick too.
They were quick, yeah. It's very surprising to me. And I've always been a car person. I've modified cars. I've done a lot of engine swaps in cars. I've had a Gemini panel van and a Chrysler Centura, so I've always been a bit of a car nut. And then a couple of years later, I saw, some people might be familiar with the White Zombie Datsun, this crazy little EV drag car from the US. I saw that on YouTube, and this thing was doing wheel stands and 10-second quarter miles and beating V8s, and that just blew my mind. I thought, wow, okay, these things are crazy. I'm going to keep tabs on this. And then a little while later, I saw EV West put out a teaser video with Michael Bream and Bill Caswell driving around in their Pikes Peak hill climb car, the BMW M3. And I thought, wow, okay, people are building these things. What is going on? How do I get into this? I followed their race at Pikes Peak, and I just contacted them and said, what's in that M3? I want to buy that and put that into a car. So I started looking around for a suitable vehicle, and that's how I came along with the idea of doing a R31 Skyline.
Yeah, no, it's a really. Did you already own the car, or was it?
No,
did you have to go and buy it?
I went and bought it. Personally, I used to think that the R31 was one of the ugliest cars you could ever imagine. I mean, it's like a doorstop or a box. And I've always loved 70s muscle cars, and a few of the 90s Japanese cars I was a little bit into back then. I really love them now. But after owning this car for a few years, the shape's really grown on me. There's some subtle shapes to it that are really nice. But I found this car was going to be suitable because it was similar to the M3 dimensionally, and it was going to fit that power plant that they were running. So I was looking for a rear-wheel drive, manual, something that had a 6-cylinder in it originally to suit that power plant. Got the car for $900 with a blown engine, but the body was perfect. So perfect candidate for a EV swap.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Really cool. Do you want me to go next slide?
Sure. Yep. Let's do it.
There we go.
Yeah. So here you can see in the engine bay or the motor bay, it's got two Warp 11s inside, running through a Power Glide gearbox, and north of 400 kilowatts, depending on the setup. Can be tweaked up to 600 kilowatts plus.
Wow.
Yeah, it's currently sitting in the workshop with a blown up battery. So the plan is to have it going again for November. There's an all Japanese day at Lakeside Raceway that I've got to get this going for. So
yeah, perfect. I think we saw something similar with the Cortina a couple of weeks ago in terms of how clean the engine bay is. I think it's a really nice look. Obviously, you've taken your time to make sure everything's clean. There's a word for that or a description for a clean engine bay like that. There's nothing really on the inside of the guards or on the firewall to them, and nothing. Normally there'd be relays and all sorts of stuff all over the shop, but obviously you find a way to hide those away, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's really important for me. Coming from a car background beforehand and seeing lots of nice cars around and going to car meets and things like that, having a nice clean build is really important to me. I think if you can, then you should, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's, like I say, even with petrol cars, there's a technique, or there's a description for it, but I'll have to find out what it is. But yeah, no, it looks absolutely beautiful
Yeah,
how you've done that.
hiding all the
Repetitive.
wiring and everything away and
Yeah,
keeping it
it takes a
neat.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
No, that's really good.
yeah, yeah. So I started this back in 2014, and it took me a while. I was doing it on the side. You know, I didn't take this on as a business full time until January 2019. It
Mm,
was part time for a couple of years, but this whole build was done just in my own spare time, with maybe the long term dream of one day starting a conversion business. And while I was building it, you know, I was following along EV West on Facebook, and they posted that they were looking for an intern. So in 2015, I flew over to San Diego and worked there for a few months. And I
wow.
think I showed up at just the right time. They they had a much smaller staff than they do currently,
Yeah.
and they had a lot of time to be able to show me a lot of builds, and I could really get my hands dirty, and well, dirty as they get working on EVs.
Yeah.
But Michael and Trent, they could really spend a lot of time with me and teach me a lot, which was great.
Yeah.
So they've been so supportive, even now. They are just so open and helpful.
No,
Yeah,
that's what
really
you
great
need in there.
people.
That's what's interesting observation that I've seen in this
Yeah,
industry. You know, the will to share ideas and evolve as we go,
yeah,
between all the different people that are converting these, be it hobbyists or professionals. The willingness to make things better and enhance them, and obviously
yeah,
get ahead is awesome. It's something I've really come to enjoy. It's a really nice experience.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
it's early days for this business, you know, for this whole industry.
Mm.
So, um,
But it's maturing
ev-
all the time, right? It's
oh,
maturing
for
all.
sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And look, I can see similarities in what you've done here to the Audi that we built early
Hmm.
days. In terms of that was never designed to be a business. It's in as such.
Sure.
And you know, those who've heard me talk about this kind of stuff before, is that, you know, evolution was very much accidental in terms of how it came to be,
Hmm.
and you know, not that the investors never ever like to hear that, obviously, but yeah, we started with the Audi, and evolution came from the Audi essentially,
Yeah.
because there was a demand for, you know, support and charges and all that kind of stuff as well,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
which
right.
is which is I think is what you found, which I think you're going to come on to anyway.
Yeah, that's right. And just to answer that question, yeah, there are DC motors in the Skyline.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
yeah.
And just a very small battery pack in it. It only had a small range, but I think the
Mm.
new battery pack will have probably around 200 kilometers range, something like that.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. So uh, yeah. Then came Nick Lake's Red 64 Beetle there, and a few of you might have seen the YouTube video. Um, that came out from that one, and I was approached by the owner, Nick Lake. He had started the build, but had got a bit stuck. You know, he's got a family and other work
Mm,
commitments and things like that. So he contacted EV West, who he bought the kit from originally, and said, "Oh, is there anyone in Australia who could finish this conversion for me?" And they got him in contact with me, and I was able to finish off his car for him, which I was really grateful to be able to do.
mm,
Yeah, because I hadn't done an EV West Beetle from start to finish. I'd done like different stages of builds while I was over there in EV West, so to do one from start to finish was great. And to see that kit form that they'd put together, I thought, yeah, wow, this is something that's going to be really popular.
mm.
I'm going to have to do one of these for myself as a demonstration vehicle. So um, I went out and got a Beetle myself, which I didn't think I'd do. I thought I'd leave the Beetle alone because a lot of people have done them, but they're just so popular.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a well trodden track and
Yeah.
trodden path. Sorry, so
Mm-hmm.
it's and they're cute cars and they make
They
great.
are.
There's a reason why they're popular, right? So
Yeah, that's
I
right.
like to hate on MX-5 owners because because they're all over the road. I do
Yeah,
the time of the track and they're everywhere and go, oh, can't you be different or whatever? But
yeah,
the truth is they're excellent cars, and so the Beetles
yep.
when they're converted to electric.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And what
The original engines only had, 40, 50 horsepower in the greatest variant, I believe, and putting a HyPer9 in it is it just
mental.
opens it up immensely. It's so much fun to drive. Yeah, the power to weight is crazy. It'll keep up with a stock SS Commodore to about 80 k's an hour. And then I'm changing gears, and that gear change, they sort of get some legs and they pull away again. But
Yeah.
traffic light to traffic light, it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's. I think it's for me. I know you sell the kits, and
Mhm.
I think it's one of those things that look. We get a heap of calls, people
Yeah.
interested in converting their cars, and we always steer them towards something like the Beetle, just simply because it has been done before a number of
Yeah.
times, and it's
Yeah.
it's still a cute car to drive. It's
Mm.
relatively practical, and the conversion is
Yes.
achievable for them. For the
Yeah.
most part, because the kits are out there to do it. Fairly um, fairly easily.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's very much the right. I think that a good starter car if you want to do it. And at the end of the day, you've
Oh.
got something you actually want to drive,
Oh yeah.
which has always been my thing. Of people are wanting inquiring with us and probably with you as well. I've
Mhm.
got this shitbox car.
Yeah.
Can you convert it to electric? And my answer is,
Yeah.
well, would you normally want to drive it anyway? And the answer is normally no.
Yeah. If you've
So
got a car that's destined for the wreckers, that's probably not the car to choose.
let
I
it go,
always
let it go,
suggest,
put it out of its
yeah,
misery. Do not
that's it.
resuscitate.
That's it. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Pick a car that you love and you're going to want to drive, for
yeah,
a
absolutely.
long time to come.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
also a car that has some cult following and you can get spares for.
mm.
There's no point putting this conversion in there if the rest of the car is falling apart around it and you can't get parts for it anymore.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. And
yeah.
case in point with this blue car as well, right?
Exactly. All the parts for a Beetle are still made brand. Everything that bolts onto the car brand new, and the
Wow.
parts are cheap. Yeah, like the door handles and window light lenses and things like that are amazingly cheap for them because they just produce so many of them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
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 No. And I think it's similar to the Land Rover stuff to a certain extent.
Yep.
It's all remanufactured and stuff, so it's not really.
That's
And
right.
even the Range Rover, which we're doing for, well, Emma, if I'm honest, she's a pretty tricky customer, I've got to say. So
Demanding.
honestly, nightmare. So so look, I presume so. The blue, that typically the blue one was yours, is that right, or is the blue one the
Yeah. So
car?
I own the blue one, and it just ticked over a year rego last week. So I've clocked up 7,000 electric miles, so a bit over
Excellent.
10,000 electric kilometers on it so far. I picked that up, really cheap. It had a, pretty sad engine in it. You can see there, it was only running on 3 cylinders. Spent a few $1,000s on brakes and suspension just to get it all nice and new again.
Yeah.
The paint's not perfect. It's got a lot of peeling in the clear coat and things like that, but that doesn't worry me because
No.
I'm dailying it and I'm driving it pretty hard. I'm not stressed about the paint job. That's just my personal thing. I'm
Yeah.
not a real panel and paint guy, but my advice would be, choose a car that you're happy to drive. Convert it after restoration. If you are going to
Mm.
restore a car, restore the car first. Get it nice and clean. and then put all the electric stuff in it.
Yeah.
Some people think you would go about it the other way, but definitely easier to convert a restored car.
That's what we're doing in the Ranger. We're starting with a grind up. If you check, if anyone, there's a post that Emma put out earlier. There's on the white Range Rover. It's a 2-door Range Rover 76, and it's a lovely car, but it's had a hard life. There's no doubt about it. So we're starting to ground up restoration, starting literally with the wheels and the tires and the axles and all this kind of stuff. So and it's got a heap of work before we go anywhere near it with a battery. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, this looks really clean. It's a really clean car underneath. It's obviously the bodywork, like you say, isn't perfect, but underneath it looks pretty clean.
Yeah. It just had the usual, this is, I resprayed it underneath, just, the stone guard and black coat of paint. It was just tired, but no major rust or anything like that. That was my big thing, because I'm not a panel and paint guy. I just made sure I found a car with no rust. And just went from there.
Perfect.
Yeah, overhauled the brakes, very important. Yeah.
Any brake upgrades on this at all, or just standard?
They're just the factory discs. They actually work quite well. It's got drums in the rear, the factory drums, which is fine because the electric motor is giving you regen through those rear wheels. So the braking performance is actually quite impressive. I've actually turned the regen down. It's more than you need.
No, that's right. I mean, look, it obviously from an engineering point of view, they'll tell you, or they'll tell you if you need to put additional brakes on there. But
that's right. The continuous output of the motor doesn't exceed the factory engine output, so that's what they're going for on the ADRs. As long as the electric motor continuous rating, your peak rating can be a lot higher, but as long as your continuous is within spec, you won't need to upgrade your brakes.
And the interesting thing is, don't tell any engineers, but that they don't focus on the torque as well. I'm sure you're aware of that too. So so you put something in with more torque, that they actually don't care too much about it. It's not in the ADRs at all, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, that's right. So cool. So here you can see one of our billet adapter plates. So that then allows you to bolt the electric motor to the transmission in the Beetle, or a combi, or a Type 3, or what have you. And that's sitting on top of a 3D printed HyPer9 model. So if you want to do some pre-build checks and see what your clearances and things are inside the engine bay, they're a really handy thing to have.
It's a bit more advanced than what we use. We've been using a dustbin lid because it's broadly the same size as an AC51.
If it works,
well, it does. We go, well, that's perfect. Okay, fine. So, and we've got I'm giving trade secrets out here now, but we've got a bit of conduit, large industrial conduit for a HyPer9 that works really well. But yours is prettier. I wouldn't be showing a picture of my conduit, whereas you purple 3D printed mock-up. That works really well.
It's pretty nice.
Instagram worthy, absolutely.
That's from a guy in Brisbane. So.
Okay, that was taking him ages to print that out.
A lot of hours in print there.
No, absolutely.
So if someone brings a car to us that there wasn't a kit for, that's off the shelf, we can design adapter plates to suit their car to bolt up the electric motor to their existing transmission. So
that's awesome.
Like with the Ford Cortina, owned by Tim Harrison, that you spoke to recently, there was no kit for that car. No one had ever converted one before, but we can design and fabricate all of those custom pieces that you'll need. The adapter plates and the battery boxes are probably the single most difficult parts to design and build. So we can take care of that for you.
And look, absolutely. We do not obviously bit of product placement here, but we do the same as well. So yeah, unlike you, I
Great.
agree.
Yeah.
It's probably 60% of the build. That's my estimate in terms of if you're going from scratch, you know, the motor, you know, the wiring, all that kind of stuff. Usually, fairly, if there's an adapter plate, obviously, it's fairly straightforward. But
Yeah.
the battery boxes for it to be ADR spec and all that kind of stuff, there's a heap of time in those to get them right. Otherwise, you know,
Definitely.
the car's nothing without it, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
No, it's
Yeah.
it's a lovely thing that you'd be able to do that in house. That's an awesome capability to have, mate.
Yeah. 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 So someone asked there, did we keep the gearbox? So
Yeah.
we, particularly in these classic cars, if you're talking about horsepower, say 200 horsepower and below, then a gearbox is a good idea. Particularly with these HyPer9s, they rev out to 8,000 RPM. It just means you're going to need at least 2 gears. So then you would just retain the factory 5-speed or 4-speed gearbox, whatever the car came with. It just makes the build a lot easier. It gives you somewhere to attach the motor and mount the motor inside the car. If you didn't have the gearbox there, you'd have to totally redesign your driveline back to the diff or whatever to get it to work.
You'd have to have a reduction gearbox, in other words.
You'd need a reduction gearbox,
and then you have to go and have to get someone to do a tail shaft or a prop shaft for you and all that kind of stuff as well. So it's simply getting the motor to adapt up to the gearbox is the way to go. Pretty much 80% of the cases.
And if you've got a 4-speed or a 5-speed, you've got a bunch of gear ratios to choose from. Doing the math on gear ratios is
maths, not.
Sorry, it's my half American blood.
I know. Really, yeah. Sorry, mate. Go on.
Then if you've got a few gears to choose from, there'll always be a right gear to drive in. You may only drive in one gear around town and then another gear on the highway, but at least you haven't invested a whole bunch of time in some custom gearbox to find out that those gear ratios might actually not be what you want to drive around with. So always easier if you choose a car with a manual gearbox and keep it in the conversion.
So it's just on that, it's probably pertinent to ask there as well. I'll let you take this one. Does it matter if it's an auto or manual?
You can do an auto, but I would advise against it for at least your first build. I have got a 2-speed Power Glide, which is it's a bit of a hopped up manualized version of an auto, so you do have to shift it. But running an automatic transmission adds a lot of complexity to get it to work properly.
And it reduces efficiency as well from...
Yes. Yeah, so not all automatic transmissions can, but if you can, you would remove the torque converter, which is it's like a fluid clutch, basically. The slush box, as the rev head guys will call it, and it does sap a lot of efficiency. And
just an example, I know Damien McGuire in Ireland, his first car was actually, it was his second car. It was one of those BMWs, was an automatic.
His land yacht.
His land. I'm sure I'm not going to even try the accent because this is being recorded and someone will play it back to him. Hey Damien, how you going, mate?
He's great. I love his videos.
He's awesome. He's awesome. He's a blinking genius. So EV BMW is the thing to search for, guys, if you're not familiar with it.
You can learn a lot from
Damien's
videos.
Yeah, you can. But he did his second BMW was an automatic box, and just simply he got half the amount of range that he expected to get out of the car, and then he just swapped over to a manual box halfway through. I think after about a year, he was just over it. So it's, learning from his experience basically is the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Just go manual all the way along, pretty much.
Only time I would ditch the gearbox completely is if I was doing a really balls out, Tesla swap or something like that. Something really high horsepower, high RPM motor. I mean, Tesla motors rev out to 16,000 RPM, and they've got so much power that they can just get away with a single speed. But if you're just running, 100 kilowatt HyPer9, then it's advisable to have a couple of gears.
Yeah, no, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I like without laboring the point, the Audi that we've got is basically second and fourth that we use, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
All right, we should move on. Yeah.
Sure.
So that again, a lovely piece of work there. I presume that's billet aluminium, is it?
That's steel. That's
Okay.
flywheel coupler. So mount your
Yeah.
standard flywheel to that, and then that mounts to the motor shaft, gives you somewhere to mount the clutch.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
No, really well done.
Yeah. So yeah, here you can see doing some tweaks out of the public charger with Tim's Cortina. The Cortina has CHAdeMO DC fast charging. And so we were just doing some tweaks and checks and making sure that we could get it all set up properly. When you're talking about plugging in very high power output charging systems, there's a lot of levels of safety. So getting them to function properly, there's a lot of steps before it'll actually start charging. So
yeah, I bet. Yeah, it's
yeah.
and I know that we deal with some of the regional equipment manufacturers when it comes to testing this stuff as well. Obviously, we can't say too much, but they know that they have to test their cars with a selection of EV DC in particular, DC fast chargers in the market, because may work with some, but not all.
Yeah, there are slight differences between them all, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Which is which is
troublesome.
Yeah. Yes.
Challenging.
Yes.
It's an opportunity,
Yes.
James. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here we go. So presume that's a battery box in the back of the
Yeah,
Beetle?
that's a rear battery box in the rear of the Beetle. The Beetles are just ideal. Again, they're such a great car to convert. They've got this cargo space behind the back seat, and the back seat's taken out for this photo. Predominantly in our conversions, we use salvaged Tesla battery. Energy density, so energy to weight is really, really incredible. It's hard to beat. They've got built-in plumbing lines, so you can keep them cool. You could warm them if you need that down in the southern states. Up here, it's all about cooling. And really, it's a must. Anyone who's been following the history of the Nissan Leaf knows the downfall of their battery pack was no thermal management to keep them cool, so they degrade a lot quicker. So we use Tesla. They're fairly abundant. You keep your eyes open and they come up for sale. We get salvage Teslas here, tear them down, get the battery out, get the motors out. So one Tesla has 16 module bricks in it, and we put 5 of those in a small car, maybe 10 in a medium-sized car, maybe more in a larger car. The 5 modules in a Beetle or the Cortina, that allows it to go about 160 Ks on a charge.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And what kind of voltage are you running if you do 10? What kind of voltage are you running for that?
Well, you could run 5 and 5, so 5 in series and 2 in parallel, 2 parallel packs through one HyPer9. I've seen that done in a combi. I've got a build coming up with Tim again, doing a combi with a Tesla swap. That's running 14 modules.
Wow.
So that sort of just gets it into the lower window of the voltage for the system for that Tesla motor.
You mean it's a Tesla drivetrain. Okay, brilliant.
Yeah,
really good. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a live stream to talk about that coming up, because that sounds really fascinating.
No doubt. Yeah.
Are you doing all the work again? Are you?
Yeah. Really looking forward to that one. It's the first Tesla swap that I've done, so really excited to see how it goes. It's going to be an amazing car. It should do 400 Ks and It will not be slow.
No, no, no. I absolutely guarantee you that.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting slide as well in terms of what you've done inside as well, because like I think a lot
Yeah.
of people when they're looking at this stuff, it's not just about converting to electric. It's
Mm.
what else are you going to do with the car? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
internally, and you know, how much of a restoration you're going to do. And you obviously touched on the
Yeah.
paintwork and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What's your? I mean, this is obviously your car. This is your show car and your daily
Yeah.
drive. So what do you do? What's your favor?
I like to do just subtle updates to bring it into the 21st century. So I like to keep the originality look-wise with the car. I think the designers of these cars got it right the first time, so I don't like to mess around with that. I really respect the design of these cars, so I don't like to chop them up. I like to keep them original. All our conversions are bolt in, so you could revert back to stock if you ever wanted to. I don't think that you ever would, but it keeps the value of the car there. You're not cutting it up to make it electric.
That's right.
So just little things, really. So I've got some seats here out of an MX-5. It just gives you a bit more comfort. This had originally had the vinyl low back seats and no headrests. We can add air conditioning. We put air conditioning into Tim's Cortina, which was amazing. Got that gassed up for the first time on a summer's day, and I just sat in that thing for about 5-10 minutes. It just blew my mind. Like, wow, to have this classic car electric with aircon, it was amazing. That was a really, really fun moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
those seats look really good in there. Actually, I thought they looked they looked a little like Porsche seats.
Yeah. That was kind of the look I was going for. You do see a lot of different kinds of seats swapped into Beetles, but Beetles are a very narrow car. So like sports buckets with big wide supportive shoulders just don't fit. But the MX-5 seats, they taper to the top, so they're just perfect for a Beetle, and they sort of suit the door cards and everything else. So
they
ideal.
They look very schmick indeed. Huh?
Yeah.
I like those.
Yeah. So I like to add things like GPS and gauges and stuff like that. So in Tim's Cortina, it's got a Android head unit which can display gauges for your battery state of charge and temperatures and things like that. So, and being an Android head unit, you can install whatever apps you want on there, and you can have maps and music and anything that you could possibly want on there.
No, the Apple Android and all that kind of stuff is a godsend, and you know, obviously got Apple CarPlay, is it? It's Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Just godsend to this kind of stuff because it's just, you know, your phones always get updated, and you know the head units get left behind. They do. So it's a great way to upgrade the head unit and give additional functionality to a car like this as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So with this car, you've also got a battery box in the front too, as well as the rear.
Yep.
So this is how many in the front and how many in the rear?
So there's 2 of the Tesla modules in the front box here, and then 3 in the rear. Okay. So that keeps the weight distribution factory. So these are 40% front, 60 rear from the factory, and that's been maintained.
That's great.
And the overall weight gain was only 60 kilos. So
that's
the car only weighs 910 kilos. It's a go-kart. It really rails a corner. I've lowered it, put better suspension in it, and it's a lot of fun. You can really throw it to the corner.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Sounds so good.
Yeah. So that's customer's white Beetle up top there. That's also getting air conditioning, but we're also experimenting with reverse cycle heating. So this will be a first for me, and it's actually the same system that Tesla is using in their Model Y for heating. They've been using resistive heaters up until now. So I never wanted to go that route. They're a really big power hog on the 12-volt system. So going to give reverse cycle heating a go, because this guy lives in Sydney. So in in the southern states, you guys get hot, but you also get bitter cold mornings as well. So
It's 10 degrees isn't bitterly cold. I hate to break it to you, fella. 10 degrees is not freezing. There are some down here would like to. I think there's some comments coming through. Can Paul please harden up? I think is going to come through pretty soon. But yeah, like it's not. It's not. However, it's thunder and lightning right now and a hailstorm outside. But we'll
wow.
gloss over that. We'll gloss over that. So yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, look, it's definitely reverse cycle is probably the thing to. That sounds like a great idea, actually.
Yeah, it's only another couple of small components, and you can get heat out of it. So
yeah,
why not?
Yeah. No, that's perfect.
Yeah. So definitely no range anxiety getting around with this Beetle. I live up in Caboolture, about an hour north of Brisbane. I regularly drive down to Brisbane to see friends and drive back on a single charge, and that's got a pretty long stretch of highway run on it. 160 k's on a single charge is no problem. I think a lot of people in their minds think they drive further than they actually do.
Yeah, always.
In my mind, an hour's drive with a bit of freeway, I was, not really thinking about it, never measuring how far I go, I would have thought that'd be 100 k's, but it's not. Your average speed, you're only doing 60 k's, so it's probably only 50, 60 k's that you're going. So 160 kilometers range is fine. Doing these sorts of drives and daily driving, I charge my Beetle maybe once or twice a week, and I drive it a lot.
Well, not so much these days, fella, I would imagine.
Runs to the shops and things like that.
I've got a great story on that. We had someone come to us last year, and I won't say what car it was, but it wasn't a great car to start off with. And it's fairly like a 2006 thing. And he said, I want 500 k's of range and 0 to 100 in 4 seconds. And can you give me a quote? And I said, well, it's going to be this much. And you and I can know, you know what kind of dollars you're talking about. It's going to be expensive. And I said, well, what's your commute like? And he said, just 20 k's there and back. I said, well, you don't need 500 k's, do you? Really?
No.
So
that's right.
It's just people think they drive a lot further than they do.
Yeah.
And it's at times it feels like they're obviously people do go on road trips. I'm not saying people don't do that, but on a normal week, then you don't drive that far. That's the reality.
That's right.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
The days of loading up the Kingswood and going across 3 states are a long time ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So is this you actually doing a drag race here?
Yeah. So this is at Lakeside Raceway. Yeah. This is a racetrack that's got a long history in Australia. It's about 15 minutes from my place. So I drove there. This racing event was for street legal cars only. They couldn't be brought on a trailer. They had to drive to and from the track. Which I did. I entered probably 10 or 12 drag races plus half-hour cruise sessions, a couple of those, and drove home, and I still had 50% charge remaining on the pack, which just blew everyone away. And it was pretty funny. You get there pretty early in the morning, about 7. You get set up in your little pit area that they give you, and nobody really paid much attention to the little Beetle down the end. But after I did a few runs and I was keeping up with everyone wanted to come and see what the hell was in the back of this thing. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
What times were you running?
It was an untimed event. It was to simulate like a true street event. So there's no adhesive on the track and no time. So it's just first on across the line.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. That that Patrol or Land Cruiser there, he was chirping the tires into third gear, making a hell of a lot of noise, and I kept up with him to about 3/4 track, and then he was just getting the legs on me. But by that stage, you know, we're doing well over 100 k's an hour, so
Wow.
you know, on the street,
I
keeping up with most cars.
I wasn't aware that a normal Beetle can do 100 k's an hour. Anyway, 100 k's, 100 miles, whatever. Yeah, I used to own one. I don't remember doing that kind of speed ever.
No, I haven't topped mine out yet. I've only got it up to about 140 k's an hour in third, and there's still fourth gear to go.
Wow, that's deeply impressive. I've never driven an electric Beetle. I kind of want one now.
They're a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Monaro. Okay, not Monaro.
Commodore.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I was keeping up with those guys. You know, stock SS Commodore with the LSV8. I was keeping up with them to about 80 k's an hour, and then they're getting their legs on me. So, you know, if I see these guys at the traffic lights, I'm going to put my foot down and show them what's up. You know.
Yeah, of course you are. Of course you are. Yeah. Who wouldn't? I mean.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it in a Leaf, anyone who's listening and got a Leaf, people just think the Leafs are pretty, you know, pedestrian as well. They're quick. They are quick. And like we've got a few. We've actually got a couple of 40 kilowatts. We do all the conversions Japanese to English.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And a bit of compliance and roadworthies and all that kind of stuff. And we've got the later model 30 kilowatt and the 40 kilowatts. They're even quicker again. It's remarkable how good they are. It's just so people think they're just like shopping trolleys or whatever, but they're really good, entertaining cars.
Yeah, they sure are.
Yeah.
So here we can see it plugged in and charging. This is just in the workshop here. We've got solar on the roof. It's just AC charging. It's just a onboard 2.5 kilowatt charger. It's all I need.
Yeah, no, it's all that most people need. Is that Thunderstruck charger I saw?
Yes. Yep. Thunderstruck 2.5 kilowatt dilithium BMS, which plugs in really well with the Tesla battery. It really makes that whole charging and BMS system really easy. It's all integrated together. It'll charge the car in about 6, 7, 8 hours, depending on where you came in at. But most of the time you're coming in, you know, maybe 20%, 30% remaining. So you're never really charging from zero.
No, exactly not.
Yeah. But if you need faster charging, then that's possible as well. You know, in those previous slides we saw Tim's Cortina there with Chatamo DC fast charging, and I'm sure I've heard rumors that there are a couple of companies out there working on CCS2. We should have in the near future some other DC fast charging options as well.
Yeah, okay. We're working on 22 kilowatt AC on the next build, so which is going to be pretty entertaining. It's as you probably know. I mean, you're probably in a better position up north compared to us, but there isn't actually that many DC fast chargers around the traps here.
Right.
But there's a heap of AC.
Yeah.
There's a heap of 22 kilowatts as well. So.
Oh, great.
So.
22 kilowatts is fast. You know, you're approaching 200 k's range.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So 22 kilowatts is what we're looking at for the white Range Rover. So that should be pretty. I think that's going to be potentially more accessible than, for example, out in front of our shop we've got a dual 22 kilowatt charger, an Aura. And pretty much every AC charging station is that as well. So that works out really. Right. So there's actually more of those around, certainly with us, than there is kind of
the DC.
Yeah.
For anyone trying to figure out what sort of charging system that they might want to put in a conversion, jump on plugshare.com, and it's like Google Maps, but it's got an overlaid filter. It shows you all of your charger types around in your area. and you can see what's around there. So if you see that there's a Chatamo charger, you know, 100 kilometers away from you on your route to where you're going, then that might be an option for you.
Yeah.
If you've just got AC chargers around you, then that might be the option. But if you're just doing short trips, you'll probably just charge from home or your friend's house. The great thing about
depends
these
on how generous your
conversions,
friends are, obviously.
they got to be pretty tight if they're not going to let you charge up your car.
I think most of my friends are pretty tight, I've got to say.
That's another thing that blows people away. You know, back at the racetrack that day, you know, everyone was spending north of $50 on petrol, and that was only $2.50 worth of grid power to charge the electric Beetle to do all that fun. But it's all charged from solar, so that was all free. You know, I don't pay for electricity.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. And you can tell your friends that when you go to charge up at their house and they don't have solar, it's only a few bucks, you know. Shout them a couple of beers and you'll be square.
Yeah, look, I might get you to talk to them, because there's a few times where I've just rolled up and got my extension lead out straight away, and they, whoa, what do you think you're doing? It's not going to happen, mate. So do you want to cover off what it says there at the top of the screen?
Yeah, sure. So converting a car is you know, it's not a small task. It's a pretty big project. If I would suggest converting a car, if you're a car enthusiast and maybe you've modified cars before, if you're not really into cars that much and they're just something that's A to B for you, like if you're not really into old classic cars and getting your hands dirty, then my advice is usually to go out and find a used Nissan Leaf, because they are pretty good value for money. A used Nissan Leaf can be had for sometimes less than 20,000. You can get a really nice one in the 20s. So if you know, if you haven't been around custom cars before, you know, some of the budgets to build these things might scare you. But if you're used to modifying cars, then, you know, the prices are pretty well on par these days.
Yeah, no, that's right. So look, and just on that, we're working with a good car company at the moment who are doing bulk buys, which basically means if you're interested in a Leaf, then they'll go and buy you an import, and it'll come. You get the benefits of economies of scale, and they'll bring a Leaf for you in for you. And we're doing some of their conversions for them at the moment in terms of, you know, Japanese to English and all this kind of stuff for them. And so we've had a few coming through our shop this week, and one in particular came in. It had 1,700 kilometers on the clock.
Whoa! Wow.
And I think it's I don't think they had it wasn't a lot of money. It was like just north of 20. And it was just a beautiful. We have heated seats, rear and front and rear, black leather, just an awesome car. So it's there are a lot of car for the money. They really are. What I would say in terms of this, I know it's your pack and everything, but at the same time is when it comes to choosing the car, you've got to be interested in it. You've got to want to drive it, and
that's right.
You know, and it obviously won't have airbags typically, or traction control.
That's an inquiry I get. It's like, oh, can't you convert something with airbags? And I say, well, you can, but it's probably it's going to be a more modern car, which is going to be more expensive. And unless you're in love with that car, like is it a cult car? Never mind that it's got airbags. Is it a car that's going to be around for another 10, 20 years? Or is it a car that's probably going to be forgotten in a wrecking yard in 5 years' time?
Yeah, exactly right.
Because the converted car is going to be super reliable. It's going to last a long time. You got to convert a car that is going to exist for a long time.
And it's going to be attractive to other people as well, which a Beetle will be, obviously. You'll get money for that all day long. Should you ever come to sell it. Whereas if, you know, you converted, I don't know, a Ford Festiva, you know, not so much.
Probably not.
No.
There's probably no car clubs for Ford Festivas?
No, I don't think there is. I don't think
There might. Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't think so.
I feel like searching on Facebook. It's either the Facebook group for that. I don't think there will be somehow.
Yeah. Get
Okay,
one of the
so
viewers to check that for us.
Yes, yeah. We've got quite a few. We've got 28 questions, would you believe? So we better get through
Wow.
and get back
Yep.
into this. So
Yep.
obviously, what and how much?
Yeah. So the NetGain HyPer9 motor, it's 100 kilowatt, 240 Newton meters of torque. So petrol equivalent. It's about 160 horsepower. So it's
Like 2.5, 3 litre, yeah.
Yes, 3 times what the original engine had, and the air-cooled classic VW guys, they know how much it costs to build an engine with that kind of power. So I say to them, how much do you think that would cost you? They tell me, and then I say, okay, now add 2 years of daily driving petrol cost, and then you're in the ballpark figure of what a converted Beetle is going to cost. So I was spending about $5,000 a year on petrol, $10,000 for the Tesla battery and the Beetle. Bam, you covered there. Your Tesla battery should last you, almost 10 years, I would say, in the conversion. And then you've got second life use as well. You can use it for solar energy storage for another 10 years beyond that. So a lot of value for money.
Obviously, you sell a kit, don't you, as well?
Yeah,
Complete kit.
sell a complete kit. And the complete kit for the Beetle is bang on 32,000. So people don't have to buy that all in one go either. Their project's probably going to take them a couple of months for their first one, probably a few months. So I'm happy to break that kit up into smaller chunks if that's what they want.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should go through some of the questions. I'm going to start from the top. It sounds like a very nice place to start. So does it run on unleaded batteries? I think he means petrol, John. I think you mean petrol, John. No, it's if you mean unleaded batteries, as in yes, they're
lithium versus
lithium,
lead acid.
Lithium, absolutely.
Lithium all the way.
Yeah. And in the SKYLINE, I think they were DC motors, weren't they?
Yeah. The original NetGain Warp 11s. They're still in there. Yeah. Still a great motor for drag racing.
They are.
Yeah.
Like a massive amounts of torque.
Yeah. Insane.
So it says here, now I know that they said the question is HyPer9 versus AC50. Why did you put the HyPer9 in the Volkswagen compared to the AC50?
Yeah, so that red 64 Beetle owned by Nick Lake, that has the AC50, so that's 50 kilowatt, and the HyPer9 is 100 kilowatt peak. So for similar money, there's only a few $100s between them. You can have double the horsepower in the same volume size motor case. So I do get some people that would rather just go with the AC50, some older folks that aren't interested in a little hot rod. They're scared to put that kind of power into their car.
It is a different technology. What I say that is you can actually dial it down, obviously, in terms of the amount. So that's not an issue. So I mean, you can drive it around in valet mode or whatever you want to do.
Yep, you've got 3 different drive profiles as well with the HyPer9, so you can just flick it on the fly between 3 different modes, so slow, medium, and fast. It's all totally customizable and tunable with the free software that it comes with. It's really easy to set up and get it exactly how you want, so you don't have to be driving around crazy.
No. Look, and with the like as personal experience, when the Audi, I drive it in smooth mode because it's just easy to live with, and it's obviously you get better Ks out of it as well. Glenn's asked about keyway versus spline, and is there a limitation of the keyway, having a keyway versus a spline?
There's always going to be an upper limit to the amount of torque you can put through a keyway versus a spline. But I didn't engineer the HyPer9, but Someone certainly spent a lot of time doing that.
No,
And
absolutely.
the keyway is fine for the HyPer9 torque. We also do the flywheel coupler that we saw in that photo. They're also undersized by 5 microns, so it's interference fit. So heat it up, expand the joint, and then slip it on while it's hot, and then it shrink fits on. So it's plenty.
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Is a gearbox required? Absolutely. Absolutely. It won't drive very well with a direct drive. The diff.
Yeah.
You need roughly 10 to 1 or there or better, between 10 and 15 to 1 for it to work, and a diff of about 4 to 1 just won't cut it.
Yeah, that's right. You'll either be bogged down and the car won't accelerate, or you'll top out at 70, 80 kilometers an hour, just redlining the motor. So with an 8,000 RPM motor window, you need 2 gears.
Exactly, and and again, a personal example with both the jaunt vehicles and the Audi, it's basically second and fourth. So second for around town, and then fourth for town driving. Was it possible to put more cells in the Volkswagen than the 30 Tesla cells? I think you only put 5 in, didn't you?
Yeah, it's just 5 modules. So yeah, it is 30 in series if you count it all up. You can definitely squeeze some more in, particularly with the later Super Beetle. You could fit 2 more modules in the front, and you could run the HyPer9 HV, which fits really well with 7 modules. You could get creative. You might be able to squeeze 2 more in the early Beetles. I haven't tried yet.
Okay. No, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Are there any aftermarket or sort of motors that are similar to the specs of the Tesla motors? I don't know about you, but the only thing that I've seen is there's some is essentially the HyPer9, which is actually not even close. But the technology behind the Tesla motors is particularly awesome, isn't it? That allows them to drive so hard. Even the small motors are around the 200 kilowatt range.
Yeah, that's right. There is AM Racing. Big money. Very interesting form factor. Any Mazda enthusiasts out there will look at them and think they're looking at something else. They look a lot like a Mazda rotary engine, and that's what was actually stacked in a few Pikes Peak race cars recently, because you can just keep sandwiching motors and end to end just to keep adding horsepower. They're about 470 horsepower a piece already, and then people just add them together. But those are big dollars. Neodymium, rare earth magnets, which really drives up the cost. The great thing about the HyPer9 is, yes, they're a permanent magnet, but they're not rare earth, they're not neodymium, so that really keeps the costs down.
Yeah, that's right. So it is kind of just coming out of that AC50 versus the HyPer9. Look, AC50, the HyPer9 is a relatively new motor as well, so one of those things that, when I did the Audi, the HyPer9 wasn't available.
That's right.
And if I was doing it again, then the HyPer9 all day long.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think watch this space. If NetGain follows what they did with their previous generations of motors, there may be a higher output motor in the future. I sure hope so.
Like
mid-size vehicles.
There's obviously a couple of questions there around modern stuff as well. So Gavin Hume's talking about his interest in converting his Mercedes Vito. So look, just to answer that, because the Audi that we converted does have modules and stability control and airbags and all of that kind of stuff. So it is possible, but there's a whole lot of CAN bus stuff that's got to be dealt with, which if you're doing on your own will be challenging. and if you get someone else to do it, it might be expensive as well. Because
Yeah.
it took me a heap of time to work out all the CAN messaging, etc., and then to prove it to the engineer that we had it bang on right. So yeah, and
So
then
even if you are confident with CAN bus, it's going to take a long time to reverse engineer all of those codes and get the car to function as it should. I would not suggest doing a CAN bus vehicle for your first car.
No. And look, it could be one of those things that kind of stops you. And if you're only grabbing like, a few hours on a weekend and the odd evening, it'll potentially take you a long time to work that out. And the other thing, just with the airbags, cars with airbags, the weights have got to be right. So we basically, and we basically had to make sure the weight was absolutely bang on compared to the original car. Such that in the event of accident, the airbags would deploy not too early, not too late, and just right, basically, as well. Because that's part of the calculations of the modules. See, before I even go into the technical, there's all of that stuff to consider, and a whole lot of dialogue's got to happen. So, long story short, stick with something older.
If you know and love old cars, pick an old car. Convert an old classic. And make it your daily driver. I still get people inquiring about converting their old car, and they're like, it'll be fine, only 160 kilometers range, I'll just use it on the weekends. And I say, no, this will be your daily driver. You won't touch the other car. You'll drive it every day. Most people don't drive their classic petrol cars every day, but when it's electric, you can. You rack up the kilometers on it.
You do, because it's just convenient and cheap.
Yeah.
2 questions from Tesla Tom. 5 Tesla modules, how many kilowatt hours is that? I think offhand it's 25-ish.
If you go with the 5.3 kilowatt hour modules, 26 and a half. If you go with the 5.6 modules, it's 28 kilowatt hour. That's what's in the Beetle and the Cortina.
Nice.
If you go with the 6.25s, it's just over 30 kilowatt hours, which is really impressive.
Deeply impressive.
Same size module. It's amazing.
I think Tom's considering giving up his Tesla Model S. So if he wants to, you want to give
donate some modules.
Yeah, Tom. I think your car's looking a bit tired, mate. Hand over the modules, and we'll take care of the rest. And
the batteries will be happier for it.
That's right. You can still look at the car. We'll give you the car back empty. Heat pump. I think the question there is, what is a heat? Tom, are you asking that? What is a heat pump? I think is that
Google reverse cycle aircon and heating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the stuff. Is it a lot of extra work? Oh, it says, sorry. Will you add a heat pump like the Model Y?
That's essentially what I'm experimenting with. So watch this space.
Yeah, perfect. Is it a lot of extra work to install DC fast charging? That's from Green Hodder.
It's not that much extra work within the car. It's only a couple of contactors and a charge port. But there are a lot of setup settings to get the car to communicate properly with the charge station. The charge station talks to the car talks to the charge station, and only when all of the parameters are correct will the car start accepting power from the DC charge station. So it's a bit of setup to get it right.
Yeah, and look, coming from the charging station perspective as well, we've obviously had a couple of charging stations come through our shop as well, where we've had to pre-stage them and get them out. And there's actually a heap of settings on the back end of the charger as well. So so we've had, for example, we had a charging station which would only charge, Myenergi's Leafs and Outlanders, which is pretty limiting, obviously. And until we got into the setup and reviewed it and go, okay, well, now it's going to work, kind of thing. So
different manufacturers have different levels of communication, even though they might have the same charge port. They've got slightly different software inside, and little tweaks need to be made here and there.
Interesting one here from Tom again. Any plans to modify used Gen 1 Nissan Leafs to include Tesla batteries?
Ooh,
That's an interesting one, actually.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, no is the answer, but but obviously he's wanting to donate his Tesla, the guts of his Tesla again. Very generous Tom indeed. Look, there are plans afoot where we will offer the service to upgrade Leafs to later generation, like 40 kilowatt hour. That's on the cards at the moment. I mean, watch this space again, which is something we definitely want to do. The only problem at the moment is that if it costs more than $5, then most Leaf owners don't want to do it, to be quite frank. Apologies to any Leaf owners out there, but it's true. It's not within their budget to do,
Yeah.
but it will be down the track. In a few years' time when it's Leafs of, they're down to like 50 k's of range, and it makes sense to upgrade. Then it's something that we can definitely entertain. There's no that would, yeah. Like I say, it's something we will definitely do, and I'm sure you'll be doing it as well.
Yeah, and battery costs continue to fall.
Yeah,
exactly.
HyPer9, no. This is a question from Greg Darwin. Sorry, Greg in Darwin, Australia. I'm sure your surname isn't Darwin. HyPer9, no. AC was AC ? So no, the HyPer9's always been AC.
The Warp series was the DC
Yeah.
series. So HyPer9 is AC permanent magnet. It's a very fancy type of permanent magnet. You can look up exactly what it is. It's kind of a combination of induction and permanent magnet. It's very, very, very out there. So yes, it has regen braking, and it's very different to the Warp motor for sure.
Yeah, very much so. Very different in power delivery as well.
Yeah.
How are the Tesla bricks wired? I think we answered this before. It's in the Beetle. It's in series, isn't it?
Yep. You generally want to build your battery packs in series. Parallel packs are a bit trickier to wire up safely. I wouldn't suggest planning on going parallel for your first build. There's definitely some safety involved to get the setup in the pack right.
Yeah, I agree.
The Orion BMS website has a very in-depth write-up about parallel packs. I would highly suggest everyone read that if they're considering building a parallel pack.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you had a previous electrical background, or did EV West kick off the electrical side for you?
Funny story. I actually raced electric RC cars for a few years. That was my first intro into electrics. It actually taught me a lot about battery theory and motor theory, because you have to teach yourself all of that stuff. It's only you and your mates at the RC track, so you've got to learn it all. I did that for about 4 years. EV West taught me quite a bit.
I bet they did.
Yep. And I installed solar for a couple of years. Solar systems are very similar to electric vehicles. A lot of the same architecture. So
no, it's all interesting. Our chief mechanic in our shop has an RC background. Would you believe?
Yeah.
So, but he's also has a history with Land Rovers and BMWs as well. So he's got that's dueling.
You combine the two. You combine the mechanical knowledge and the RC car stuff, or RC boats or whatever, and you're on your way.
Yeah, the only difference is the voltage will kill you, obviously.
Yes.
Sorry if you get it wrong, obviously. John, this I don't know if anyone can see that. John Matheson, he says, not a question, a comment. A $5 60 kilowatt Tesla battery conversion would likely sell very well. sign a tight ass leaf owner. Thanks, John. And just one other thing, obviously there's a couple of things in the comments. Apparently there is a Ford Festiva owners club.
Hey, there you go.
And Brad is saying he's actually started to convert one to electric. So we've managed to offend. We've managed to offend people like that. So we both apologise.
Better call PC principal.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's yeah, exactly. Yeah, and what was the other thing? There was something here about how about larger heavy vehicles like a Falcon, Fairlane, or SUV? What's your thoughts on those?
Oh, can definitely be done. I mean, you can convert anything you want, and you name it, someone has converted it. Boat, plane, truck, motorcycle, everything, every type of vehicle that exists has been converted. Get on a website called evalbum.com. It just comes down to budget. The bigger the car, the heavier it is, the more battery you're going to have to put in it to go the same distance. You're going to need more motor, so bigger or more of them. So it's just coming down to budget. So, you know, you double the weight of the car, you're probably going to double your budget. So is that a reality for you?
Yeah, exactly. And I think I think there is a sweet spot, and I think you'll agree on this in terms of, you know, if you try and convert a Mini or something like that, electric classic cars have done. I think it's a Fiat.
Fiat 500.
Fiat 500. You know, there's limited space. You know,
they're hard. Hard to convert. Tight little space.
Yeah, and if you try and convert a small car because it's light and all that kind of stuff, then that's going to be pretty tough to put the batteries in, and you want to be going something mid-size, which is still practical, that you can throw stuff in the back, you know, and go shopping and all of that kind of thing. So but you know, if you go too big, you're just going to be cutting a hole in a metal ring, which you don't need really.
That's right.
There is a sweet spot. I think we'll just take this last question here, which Gary Young has asked. What's the pros and cons of keeping the clutch?
So you're going to want to keep a manual transmission for the reasons discussed before. If you use like a modern-ish Japanese manual gearbox with really nice synchros, you can shift without a clutch. Maybe go drive a petrol car and give it a try with someone's transmission that you don't really care about, and see if you can shift it without the clutch. It's going to be the same with the electric motor. If you keep the clutch, anyone's going to be able to get in and just drive it. They're not going to have to learn how to finesse the gear stick. It just makes it much easier. A manual converted car, you mostly drive it around in one gear, and then you're just clutching in for one gear change. But it just makes the drivability so much easier for everyone who's ever going to drive it.
Yeah, look, and that's the thing. So I know when I've I've really been a bad person in the past, where I've just kind of thrown the keys to either the Land Rover or the Audi to someone, said, "Hey, you go to take that," and they've come back and go, "Well, I don't know what to do because it doesn't make sense." So the whole idea is that if you keep the clutch, you know, because actually, I'll come back to that. Sometimes when you've got the clutch and you've got the gearbox and you've also got the idea that it's actually, you know, you select the gear and you don't use the clutch most of the time, it's confusing.
That's right.
But if you tell people it's now a manual, but you don't have, there's no clutch whatsoever, then that's going to be an issue. So it's just confusing. You don't want to be in a situation where it's a car that only you can drive, because that's going to be a really short-lived vehicle for you and your family. So it's going to be, it's not going to be work out for a happy household.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Gary said there, thank you for the response. My wife will be happy. Yeah, for sure. Anyone
I wouldn't bank on
can
that,
only.
actually,
If you can't drive a manual, you can still probably drive an EV manual, because you don't have to slip the clutch, and you know, you can't really stall it as as such in a petrol sense. So they're really easy to drive.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And look, I guess we should come to a close. We've been going for an hour and 20, which is awesome.
Cool.
But look, obviously, any more questions, then feel free to fire them at either myself or James. On the screen, you've got all those contact details on there. So both the websites, evolutionaustralia.com.au, TractionEV.com, and all the socials there as well. So if you need any additional help or support, or you want to start kicking that off in terms of getting a kit, and I would suggest you do, because I guess the thing that's interesting out of all this is that it can be a relatively straightforward project to do, especially if it's a Beetle, and also
Yeah, for sure.
it can be incredibly rewarding to do as a project as well. So
Yeah.
it's something that I would highly recommend you guys and girls having a look at, because it can be incredibly rewarding to do.
Yeah,
And
for
also,
sure.
if you struggle with it all, then by all means give someone like myself or James a call, and then
Yeah,
we'll do it
always
for
here
you.
for support.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
I'm always happy to answer questions, anytime.
Yeah,
Call
absolutely.
or
Us too.
email or on the socials, just send me a question and I'll always help out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, excellent. All right, thank you, everyone. Thanks, James. Thanks for all the questions. As always, the
Thanks,
questions
Russ, for
really
the
important.
opportunity. This has been
Yeah,
great.
no,
Yeah.
thank you,
And
thank you,
thanks
thank
to
you,
all the
thanks for your time.
attendees.
Yeah, excellent. All right, thanks, guys. Like I said, this will be on YouTube tomorrow morning, and ask away. Thanks very much indeed. Cheers. Thanks,
Thanks,
James.
guys.
Hey, thanks.
Thanks, Russ.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.